Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis is 19-2 as a pro, 29 years old, and he's got 1 inch of height and 2.5 inches of reach over 32-year-old Robert Whittaker, who is 24-6 as a pro. Dricus, he's got 18 finishes in his 19 wins, 8 by knockout, 10 by submission. Bona fide finisher, this guy. And even though he's gotten away from his submissions as of late in his career, he's still got that big one over Darren Till. And that was deep into the fight in round 3. One of his most impressive wins. But maybe his most impressive win was his one decision victory over Brad Tavares. Brad was working him in round 1, and he outlasted and outworked Brad. And for him to get his only decision victory over a guy like Brad Tavares, very impressive. And that's just another example of this guy having deceptively good cardio. He has outlasted and outworked Darren Till, Brad Tavares, and Derek Brunson all inside the UFC, which is very impressive. And he's a guy that breathes very heavily, or he did anyway, before he fixed his deviated septum. I'm not sure if that's going to affect him too much as a fighter, but I'm hoping it affects the optics. Because as far as optics go, he had some of the shittiest optics in the whole sport. Breathing out of his mouth. And when you're doing anything, running away, backing up, breathing out of your mouth, it looks like you're losing. And that's how he always looked. But it was because he couldn't breathe out of his nose. And I think the fact that he got finishes deep into the fight against Darren Till, Derek Brunson, taking over against Brad Tavares, shows that he has good cardio and always has had good cardio. His 2 losses come to Roberto Soldic, who knocked him out in a rematch. Dricus actually knocked him out. And that's one of the best fighters in Europe, even though he was just knocked out in his last fight and definitely taken down a peg. But still, the guy's built up quite a resume, and there's no shame in the loss. And then his other loss was by submission to this other guy. But Dricus, he's definitely a very versatile, dangerous fighter everywhere. And here, he's going to have physicality over Robert Whittaker. And I think he's the better submission artist for sure, too. Even though Whittaker's very tough to submit, I would say his first submission certainly goes to Dricus du Plessis in this fight. Dricus is a kickboxer. He's a kickboxer, fought K1 kickboxing, but he's not the best kickboxer, in my opinion. He's sharp and skilled, but sloppy. He's certainly a sloppy fighter in MMA. And it's not just because his mouth is open. He's a guy that, can be knocked off balance quite easily, can throw punches and kicks off balance, and a lot of charging. He just doesn't look like the most refined striker. He's not Israel Adesanya, which is, ironically, the only guy to beat Robert Whittaker in the middleweight division. But Dricus, to win this fight, if he's able to take Robert Whittaker down, and Whittaker is a wrestler, it may not seem like it, but that, I believe, was his first discipline. He was a wrestler. But if Dricus is able to take the Whittaker down, I think with his physicality, he can find a lot of success on the ground. And, of course, if he's not able to take him down on the feet, he's got to crap Robert Whittaker, because I think all the small moments will belong to Whittaker. Not that it's going to look exactly like Whittaker-Vettori, but I expect it to look somewhat like that. Whittaker's a really tough guy to get to on the feet. Really basic guy. Great hands, but also really strong kicks. And doesn't throw too much flashy shit. Really manages his distance very well. And he's very, very sharp with counters. I think if Dricus goes charging in on Whittaker, he is going to look foolish for a moment or two. Whittaker will definitely score a lot of small moments. Whittaker, his 24 wins come 14 by finish, 5 submissions, 9 knockouts, and 10 decisions. As of late, he's pretty much been a point fighter, but that's fighting the top fighters in the world. Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, Darren Till, and I know, Dricus du Plessis, who I like to call DDP, got him out of there in round 3, Darren Till. But Whittaker, he's looked like the perfect fighter in all these fights. And even the Israel Adesanya fight was a very close fight, the rematch. I can't, I feel like it should have gone to Izzy, but it was still a split decision, and that's because Whittaker made it interesting with his wrestling. His wrestling, as I mentioned, is his first discipline, and it's been brought back into the game for the last few fights. He's been mixing in the wrestling, and it's worked out really well for him. Robert Whittaker is a tough enough problem on the feet, but when he takes you out of your game by ripping you to the mat, it's discouraging. He definitely had his way with guys like Kelvin Gastelum doing things like that. Whittaker's losses, he's got 2 knockouts of the Israel Adesanya and Wonder Boy at welterweight. Those are 2 of the very best strikers in the history of MMA, Wonder Boy and Israel Adesanya. And it's no coincidence those are the only 2 to get him out of there. He was submitted by this capable Korean fighter by a triangle choke in 2011. That's pretty much irrelevant at this point. And then he lost 3 decisions. Israel Adesanya, Court McGee, and some other asshole. Jesse Juarez, I believe. But Robert Whittaker has been perfect at middleweight, aside from his Israel Adesanya fights. And I do think this is another case of him winning a decision here. I think he's going to be the cleaner striker. I think even though he's given up physicality and aggression, I'm sure, to Dricus du Plessis, he's the more comfortable, refined fighter. His wrestling's going to be there for him to thwart takedowns from Dricus du Plessis. And on the feet, if he doesn't give up too many big moments, he's going to dominate the small moments, Robert Whittaker. Whittaker by decision is the pick, and the bets, of course, will be on Dricus du Plessis. I think they got his odds wrong at plus 310. I want to see the guy lose in the UFC. Before I think that's not worth it. But now I think it is worth it for a sprinkle. DDP, plus 310. And really, if he wins, I would say it'd probably be a finish. But Robert Whittaker's really tough to finish. So there might be a path to victory for Dricus du Plessis if he's able to strike his way into well-timed takedowns and win with physicality on the inside, whether it's on the ground or stuffing Whittaker against the cage. So I just think Dricus du Plessis is an interesting guy that's worth throwing a few sprinkles on. But in general, the pick is Robert Whittaker. And if I was able to trust a path to victory for Whittaker, I would bet on it. You can get his decision at plus 175 or finish at plus 105. Again, decision is the pick, and it's the better odds there. But Dricus du Plessis has never lost a decision. And Robert Whittaker is deceptively dangerous at this point. Because, again, he's been a point fighter for the last few years. But he's still a very dangerous guy. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was able to knock out Dricus du Plessis, especially after getting him sloppy and tired. So we'll see what happens. But Whittaker by decision is the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.